Hi, everybody. I want to talk to you about growth mindset, about trauma competency, and about concepts like agency. So first, let's talk about agency. So years ago, a Dr. Albert Bandura defined agency as the human capability to influence one's own functioning in the course of events, okay? Kind of a nerd way of defining it, but agency is really critically important because so much of our culture, frankly, our cultural attitudes about occupational trauma, so much of our historical training even has eroded our agency. And one way that we can cultivate agency is really to take a look at growth mindset. So there are plenty of research data that tell us that how we view stress and trauma really does matter. We have Dr. Alia Crum at Stanford. We also have Dr. Kelly McGonigal, also at Stanford, who both have written extensively about the lens through which we see stress and trauma deeply impacts our response to it. Now, we're not trying to paint some silly, pixie dust of, oh, if I just have a different view of trauma, I'm not going to be impacted by it. It's actually the opposite of that. What we're looking at here is cultivating a gritty, practical growth mindset. And the first thing we want to just acknowledge is that the data tell us that stress injury will happen. It's therefore predictable. If we look at the arc of the journey of the first responder, no matter what the role is, whether it's operational, administrative, communications, whatever it is, we know that stress injury shows up predictably. So knowing that, we can begin to train to work with injury. And one way that we train to work with stress injury, occupational injury, trauma injury, whatever we want to call it, is to cultivate a growth mindset. And a growth mindset is different than a fixed mindset. So think about this. So much of our historical attitudes and trainings around occupational trauma have really been held in this domain of fixed mindset, which says stress happens to me. Stress happens to me. This is why we have a whole industry around stress management. And it really doesn't work very effectively. Okay, the data does not support the efficacy of stress management approaches, right? So alternatively, we want to get skillful at stress. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The other component of a fixed mindset around occupational stress and trauma is that we talk about survival as our only option, right? We want to armor up, move through our careers, and hope that we don't get injured and try to survive. And then when we do get injured, we feel like we're a failure. We feel like we're broken, we need fixing. This historical fixed mindset has caused tremendous harm, and it's not evidence-based. Okay? It leads to avoidance and denial and maladaptive behavior and toxic culture. Alternatively, we want to introduce you to a growth and resilience mindset, which rather than stress happens to me, it says I experience stress and I am resilient and capable. Moreover, we chose these professions knowing that we're going to move into trauma, right? So we experience stress and trauma. We can train to skillfully move through trauma, perform our tradecraft, and then take appropriate actions to mitigate or to work with that experience. Okay? So we can navigate stress injury with informed actions. This is about accountability, right? So growth and resilience mindset results in greater agency, but agency results in greater accountability, which really is just a different way of saying we take action. We cultivate awareness and we take actions, which leads to accountability, right? So we're training a growth and resilience mindset using mindfulness skill development. The more aware we are of our experience, the more skillful we can be at working with that experience. The more we avoid that experience, the emotions, the sensations, the least likely we are to be able to navigate that experience. So growth mindset and mindfulness go hand in hand. We're cultivating agency which allows us to influence not only the direct experience of occupational stress and trauma, but what happens afterward. And with skillful interventions, which look like integrated medicine, psychotherapy, meaningful social connection, and a whole host of other things, to include the things that we're training in 720 Health: movement, nutrition, mindfulness, lots of other things, we can cultivate greater resilience or greater trauma resilience. And at the end of the day, we're getting good at trauma. We call this trauma competency. And there's a number of skills that feed into that idea of trauma competency that you're cultivating in the 720 Health program. How you see the trauma you experience is critically important. Thank you.